Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Today, we're going to be going over the Battlin Boxer deck profile. A deck that I actually did take to locals and test out a bit. Now, if you guys want to see more details about me playing at locals, I played Serteller and Cash Dragons. I won. I lost to Necros. For some reason, I didn't top, even though, you know, my tiebreaker was the Necros, and I'm pretty sure he came in first. But, it's definitely on my Facebook. I'm going to start doing locals reports more often, and I hope you guys enjoy. But until then, that's all I'm going to go about in this deck. I'm going to go talk about the deck profile more than anything else. The main objective of this deck is to basically get out Battlin Boxer Nova Kaiser and Battlin Boxer Lead Yoke. Once you get out those two, and in tandem or either or, you tend to change the game to your favor. The deck is really good at doing that, and that's typically its primary focus. There's really much nothing else to say about that. But let's get down to the deck profile. I'm going to be running 3 copies of Switch Hair, 3 copies of Glassjaw, 3 copies of Headgear, 2 copies of Shadow, 2 copies of Spar, 2 copies of Mass Chameleon, 3 copies of Max C. That's going to sum it up for monsters at 18. For spells, we're going to be running 3 copies of Battlin Boxer's Spirit, 3 copies of Reinforcement of the Army, 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, 1 Book of Moon, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Raigeki. The spells are going to be at 11. Now for the traps, 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, 2 copies of Mirror Force, 2 copies of Mind Crush, Ring of Destruction, Bottomless, Vanities, and Solemn Warning. The deck is almost self-explanatory. No, I don't play really bad cards like Veil and, Counterpunch. I just feel like those they don't really get you into your strategy. They don't really get you anywhere. If you're special summoning Veil, it means 2 things. More often than not, you're losing in a situation that Battlin Boxers don't want to be in. And then on top of that, you only can gain its effect when you're taking damage. Like, if your opponent's going for game, you can't special summon it. I just don't like it at all. As for Switch Hitter, as for Counterpunch, I feel like that's actually one of the worst main deck Battlin Boxers cards for this format or any format that I can think of. Before, you know, we got all this new support that you could play. Why? Because it just doesn't do anything for you. In a format where Necros, Burning Abyss, and Shadow still run amok, being able to put a switch here, a Counterpunch in your graveyard and then give your monster 1,000 attack like a Galoot does not do anything, which is the exact same reason why Selenite players don't play Honest. So, I mean, why would I be playing a degenerate card of that? That's just my opinion on it. I can see a lot of reasons why, you know, people still play Honest and people would play Counterpunch. They're not bad cards. It's just something I would not play as for my meta call, period. To the deck, the main focus is really just to special summon Glassjaw off a Switch Hitter. If you can do any combination of make Glassjaw on your Battlin Boxer Lead Yoke, you're in a really good position. So, for example, if your Glassjaw does get detached through Lead Yoke, its effect is not a cost, and also it does not activate as well. So, if it were to get detached through Lead Yoke, you can add, more often than not, you want to add Switch Hitter back to your hand, and you can go to the combo again. This really puts a lot of pressure on your opponent to try to get rid of Lead Yoke in other ways, or just get their face beat in by Lead Yoke. So, yeah, it's not really a good sight to see for your opponent to do that. Lead Yoke is just that good of a card. If you're not making Lead Yoke, which is probably, if Glassjaw's not your material, you're going to make Battlin Boxer Kaiser Nova. And Kaiser Nova is really good at just making your materials really worth it. Once per turn, it keeps on adding materials, so when your opponent does get rid of it, your opponent could be facing a huge problem, you know, with you special summoning a lot of monsters. Battlin Boxer Shadow I actually did play 3 of when I was playing in a tournament, and I did not use his effect often. The theory behind Battlin Boxer Shadow is that if I summon Kaiser Nova, more often than not, it's not with the necessary material, so Glassjaw isn't a material, but Glassjaw's in my graveyard, so I attach the Glassjaw to Kaiser Nova, and then I can activate Shadow's effect, detaching Glassjaw and gaining Glassjaw's effect. I mean, that proved to be good. While I could have used it, it didn't prove to be effective enough for me to run 3 Shadows. So I think 2 Shadows is exactly where it's at. Battlin Boxer Spar is actually a low-key MVP in this deck. Keep in mind that you can special summon Spar in your main phase 2 after you finish inflicting damage to your opponent. So, you know, you can Exceed summon and then still get damage off to your opponent. It's just a really good card. There's nothing else to say about that. Mass Chameleon is actually a tech that I wasn't running during the tournament. I can't remember exactly what I was running. I think it was actually Effect Veilers in the main board. But Effect Veilers in the main board, I mean, like I said, unless you're playing against a Teller, or unless you're playing against Necros, I guess, or Teller, I already got that down pat. Mass Chameleon actually allows me to go into Battlin Boxer Case or Nova, and then, you know, just abuse cards from there because it's still that good. And it also allows me to go in Crimson Blader. Crimson Blader is just a really good card this format, especially if you catch your opponent in the right situations. Maxi, like I'm pretty sure I've said in the video before, you can main Maxi in almost three in almost any deck and get away with it just because there's so much special summoning in this format, especially with Stick and Chair running around, Burning Abyss running around, Shadow running around. You can capitalize off of Maxi and get some really huge advantage. For spells, Battlin Boxer Spirits, that's like the monster reborn of the deck. I mean, before I wouldn't play any of them just because it was so situational. But now since we have so many ways to send Glassjaw to the graveyard and then just so many good Battlin Boxer monsters to abuse special summoning to our side of the field, I don't see why not playing 3 copies of Battlin Boxer Spirit. Especially if you do mill off Glassjaw with Battlin Boxer Spirit. It's just like, oh man, too strong. 3 Reinforcement, 2 Mystical Blade Typhoon, that's obvious. Book of Moon, Foolish Barrier, Raigeki, that should be more than obvious. I actually did not have Raigeki main board in the tournament, and that cost me a lot of games because I learned Raigeki is probably a card that you should never side out. As for traps, I do not run Counterpunch. Counterpunch, if you ask me, is one of the worst Battlin Boxer supports of all time. Why? Because Counterpunch says battle. You have to be in your battle phase. Had Counterpunch not said battle phase, then we'd be talking about a whole different Battlin Boxer deck. I definitely think this deck would have been tier 1 had Counterpunch not said in battle phase. I was like, oh no. But with that being said, there's not a lot of cards that interact in the battle phase that are, deck-wise that are good. So Counterpunch is kind of like left useless. I mean, I would be stopping cards like Mirror Force and stuff. And why would I stop Mirror Force on my Nova Case or on my Lead Yoke? I mean, like, that's, it doesn't hurt me at all. So, I mean, that's the biggest reason why I don't run Counterpunch. It's just not good. 3 Fiendish Chain, that's good for effect negation. 2 Mirror Force, 2 Mind Crush, Ring of Destruction, Bottomless Vanities, and Solemn Warning. Now, the Bottomless and Solemn Warning, I ran the Bottomless and I kind of regretted it because he Trishulaed me and I was like, whatever. But I would actually take out the Bottomless and the Solemn Warning for Effect Veilers if push came to shove. This actually would probably be an entirely different deck. If I were to take it, at a high level event, what I expect to see Necros. Only really expect to see 1 or 2 Necros in a 15 to 30 man tournament. So, I mean, this is really playing it safe against almost any other deck. Really good against any other deck. You basically make boards that your opponent can't get over. But that's pretty much it for the extra deck. Let's go on to for the main deck, let's go on to the extra deck. Alright fellas, the extra deck is actually relatively simple. There's really no super tricks behind it. I'm just going to go through it as possible. We're going to go 2 copy of Kaiser Nova, 2 copy of Lead Yoke. I mean, those are your guys. I've never ran into a situation where I've needed more than 2 and 2 unless I was on DevPro. It really proved to be, non-existent in real life. So 2 and 2 seems more than fine. 1 copy of King of Feral Imps. This card is actually my replacement for the Cestus that you guys see me. The Battlin Boxer monster requires 3 material. While I do like that card, I feel like King of Feral Imps actually gets me into my Mass Chameleons. And Mass Chameleons, if at very worst, can make Kaiser Nova, which furthers my strategy. So I'd rather have that. 1 copy of Castell, Exiton, Gaga Cowboy. This card's MVP. It's won me so many games. Don't know why. Honor Arc, Antiluminescent, another great card. Dweller and Rhapsody, really good against the Satellar. Unfortunately, I was never able to make it. And then Lava Volchain. Now, Lava Volchain is too good in here. Let's say I don't want to make Kaiser Nova and I really need Glassjaw into my deck. Well, I normally summon 2 Battlin Boxer monsters as long as it's not a switch hitter play. Hopefully, one of them is one that I would like back to my hand. And then I make Lava Volchain. Lava Volchain will send the Glassjaw, and then I add the Battlin Boxer monster I detached with Lava Volchain. Keep in mind that you cannot use Glassjaw's effect if you are detaching its effect with Lava Volchain. But you can send Glassjaw to add another Battlin Boxer monster. I've actually went to Lava Volchain, King of Feral Imps, obviously these, Exiton, and Heroic Champion Excalibur. I actually went to Gaga Cowboy once in Dweller. But I think I've actually went to all of them fairly well. And then that one copy of Synchro will be Crimson Blader, just a god against, you know, certain decks. It just wins. I've actually seen Mermels in my meta, so Crimson Blader was a good call. I seen, you know, that one Necros player, if I was able to make Crimson Blader, if I did play the Chameleon, it would have been good in a certain situation. I've seen a lot of interesting things in my meta. So Crimson Blader, I feel, is like a really, really good target. He's probably the best level 8 out there. That is a Synchro. Now, I guess we can show you some of the combos. All right, so this deck is a little more combo-oriented than I would like to, you know, to admit. So let's get on to it. I'm going to start off with Glassjaw in my graveyard and switch here on the field. Shadow and Spar. Let's say, I mean, this is just like a godly-like hand. This is what you want to open up with. Glassjaw in the graveyard and, you know, these 3 in your hand. Very easily to attain with Reinforcement of the Army and just how the deck plays. So what we would do first is we normal summon Switch Hitter, special summon Glassjaw, and then we'd Exceed summon for Lead Yoke. Now, it's important that we Exceed summon for Lead Yoke because it's important. Now, Lead Yoke's on the field, 2200. Actually, you really could go into the other one. It doesn't really matter. Depending on if you have Battlin Boxer Monsters in your graveyard, you probably would go into the other one. You activate Spar's effect, detaching the Switch Hitter, and then you activate Shadow's effect, detaching the Switch Hitter, and you special summon. You swing for 3000 and 1800 damage. Main phase 2, you special summon your Spar, and then you Exceed summon for your Kaiser Nova. And then you activate Kaiser Novas to attach the Switch Hitter. This can go either way. If you need the Lead Yoke for more power, you can do it that way. Or you could really just reverse the roles, and then it'd be more like this during your end phase. It doesn't really matter. The reason why I would pick the other way is because then the Lead Yoke does have Glassjaw's material, and that's kind of really, really, really good. So, but ultimately, it really depends on your graveyard. Oh, and this also can be obtained with, you know, Battlin Boxer Spirits in your hand. So, like I said, it's not hard, especially if you go into that mid game. Just the basic combo, if you guys didn't know: Switch Hitter, Glassjaw, and then we make Lead Yoke. Actually, the combos are, if you ask me, are pretty linear. Masked Chameleon. It's just so much abuse with Glassjaw in the graveyard if you have Masked Chameleon. Keep in mind, you can still go into Kaiser Nova with, you know, the Glassjaw, or with the Masked Chameleon, and then Kaiser Nova can still attach material, and then, you know, we can detach the Switch Hitter, or actually, let's say if there was another, for example, let's just put Spar in the graveyard, just because I love me. We're gonna detach the Glassjaw, special summon the Switch Hitter. Glassjaw's effect is going to add the Spar. Obviously, this was last turn, so don't hate me on it. And then we're going to swing for damage. Next, we're going to special summon the Spar in main phase 2. Then we're going to make King of Feral Imps, and then Feral Imps effect is going to detach, and you're going to add your second copy of Masked Chameleon. It's just like, the deck is really linear, if you ask me. There's no real spell and trap card combos. That's really quote-unquote anti-meta like. There's not really much else to be said. I guess another combo would be, it will require Spar and Switch Hitter. There's been so many times where I've, you know, opened up with Spar and Switch Hitter, and it's not a nice hand at all. It's not ugly. And I mean, it's really ugly. And we really need to put Glassjaw in our graveyard. So what we're going to do is we're just going to normal summon Switch Hitter, we're going to special summon Spar, then we're going to overlay for Lava Volchain, a card that I've already said is really good. We're going to activate Lava Volchain, we're going to detach the Switch Hitter to send Glassjaw to the graveyard. Glassjaw's effect is going to add us to Switch Hitter. Now guess what? Now we have a Lava Volchain on the field. It's kind of useless. I mean, if the opponent does sit on it, we'll send another Glassjaw after we finish going off. But on our next turn, we'll summon Switch Hitter, special summon, then we can go into Lead Yoke. It really, I mean, it's really good in that essence. Actually, a couple of combos have been done through what's-his-face, through Headgeared, who I feel is like, he's so important because he's the foolish. I'm just going to say Headgeared, Battlin Boxer Spirits. I think that's all I need. Is that all I need? We summon Headgeared, we send a monster. And of course, let's just put Spar just in case. So I'm going to summon Headgeared. Headgeared's effect is going to send Battlin Boxer Glassjaw. And then Oh, no, I guess I don't need anything. I'm going to activate Spirits, and Spirits will be switch hitter because I'm just that pro. Then we'll special summon Grassjaw and then go into our rank 4 Exceed, which will always more than likely be Lead Yoke. Like I said, the deck's really linear, so all these combos are going to wind up back into Lead Yoke, and then there's just plenty more that I can go into Lead Yoke. I mean, this deck won't really make huge boards. If it can, it'll just make 2 Exceeds, and those 2 Exceeds that you'll more often make is Lead Yoke and also Kaiser Nova. Not really much else to say about that. Well, thank you guys for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.